Grand Rising family, welcome back. It's Shay Seeking, and this is Not Your Mama's Bible Study, along with a little bit of his story live. Today we are going to go and dip back into the book of John, chapter 3. And hopefully we can get a little bit closer as to what I'm trying to show you guys as far as the correlations between the biblical text and historical matters. Okay. And when it comes to John and his historical works, and we're talking about John Brown, and then Jesus and his biblical works. Also, there's a lot swarming around here because before John, there's Luke, and here I can see a little bit about, like Moses and, a Messiah, messenger, Christ, Jesus, there's a lot swarming around here. And then, so in the real life aspect, there's a lot going on with John Brown, and then this John Wilkes and two other people that were witnesses that were there when Jesus, I'm sorry, when John Brown was hung. And then this John Wilkes, this actor, John Wilkes, I think his name is Booth, maybe, if I'm not mistaken. I know it's John Wilkes, though. Was supposed to be the one to later on come and so-called assassinate Lincoln. So when we're thinking of all these things, there's so many intertwining things because I thought that there was supposed to be two or three other people there with Jesus as well. I think that the book of John is going to give us a better understanding on some aspects of this Christ and this Jesus figure. So again, I just think that that was really funny that, I think John was saying that he's not the Christ, but someone that's going to come after him. And I think this is John the Baptist is what they were calling him in some aspects in this text. So, there's a lot going on. Okay, there's a lot going on with the mixture of John Lincoln being ancestor of Abraham Lincoln, and then we have John, and there's a lot of Johns in the John Brown family, and then the linking of the families of all of these people, even Adam, and all of the people that basically preside in the temple or the heavens, which is the abode of God or whatnot. Okay. And these are foreign people. So when they're saying things such as you have to pass through the waters to get into the kingdom of heaven, what I feel on this channel, because we're giving a more literal, in your face, alternative view as to what's being said here, we're wondering if you have to be of some kind of descent of those people who came here, like the founding fathers or, pilgrims or planters or some of the early families here. You have to be washed in their blood before you can enter that temple. Okay. So, or enter the house of God. Okay. So again, it reminds me of these Masons, the Illuminati bringing light, and then the 33 degrees. I know it might stand for something else, but what's drawing me closer to even look at that is the fact that usually it seems like the third generation of. And we already know that in the historical manner, they were always trying to get to the third generation of whitewashing or amalgamation, where you have completely removed any views of the Negro or so-called black. Okay, so again, there's a lot of stuff here. So let's just keep going because I know I gave you a mouthful there, but all of this stuff I'm hoping can come into terms by the time we're done with this little mini series that we're doing. So again, it says, before anything else existed, there was Christ. So right there, that's telling me before anything else existed, there was Christ. So I'm asking myself, it has some notes here, but okay. So I'm asking myself, before anything, even God existed? I have to stop myself at each sentence and ask myself things like this. Okay. Oh, but so it goes on and says with God. Okay. So Christ with God. Okay. So before anything else existed, there was Christ with God. But Christ is before God. And it's funny that there's no real mention of Christ in Genesis or in the beginning when God began creating. So again, if there's two there, and if Christ was there, that means Christ was already there residing in the earthlings or the earthly people, possibly, okay? Because again, that is another part that, or in the darkness or the dark vapors, because that is another component that I see here that is not made to mention or brought all the way into light, is that there was already somebody here, meaning like a pre-Adamic or whatever so-called race of people, which I feel, since they've hid the history of the American Negro, represents the American Aboriginal, okay, who were the first people here, that were here already when God began creating, because a lot of the biblical text is written in that manner. In the beginning, when God began creating. So again, was Christ already there, and he was already there. So, and then now we start that first chapter and that first sentence in Genesis saying, when God began creating. So if Jesus is there, is not, if Christ is there, sorry, then it seems like there is purposely been put in place some kind of way to make it seem as if he wasn't. And we're only talking about God. Do you get what I'm saying? Okay. Same thing with them saying that we making up this whole thing about so-called African Americans coming from Africa when they were already here. Same thing with the creation story itself, when there was already a race of people, so-called race of people here. Okay, the creation story is about them amalgamating, breeding, splicing themselves with those particular type of people. Okay, so he has always been alive. So he was always alive. So we're not saying a living creature, we're saying alive. Okay. So a living creature is also something that has been created. Okay. And it's funny that God is doing all of these works with the living creature, but there's no mention of Christ and what was going on with the people that were already alive. Okay. So it would be nice to see what alive actually means in etymology, compared to living creature. Okay, so alive, in life. Okay, so again, we're going back to the 1200s. Are we in the second day? Because again, we're already talking Genesis 1 and 2, especially 1, when it's saying to replenish the earth. So if the earth is the Aboriginal people and the earliest and the earthling in that this temple of God and this abode and this firmament is sitting on, or this caste system is sitting on, okay, then again, you have to wonder, okay? Yeah. So in life, living, okay, in living, not dead. Okay, so he was not dead. These people were not dead as of yet, I would say. Okay, if we're going to look at it from that aspect again. Dative, okay, dative of life or life. um, let's see. Uh, live was currently to 1700s again. So if we're talking about the full form on live was still current in 17th century or the seventh day. Again, now we're talking about live. So now we're bringing that living aspect in when he's breathing the breath of life into the living creatures. So that still, we're they might have living here as a related entry, but we'll see. But again, this would be when they were making themselves a living creature. Okay, so of abstract, I'm thinking that means abstracting or taking something. I don't know, things. Okay, love, lawsuit, etc. In a state of operation, unextinguished. Okay, and then there's going to be something in this chapter talking about that something is the God is the the furnace, or the saying in effect that it's a fire or something that the darkness has not will never figure out how to extinguish or whatever. Okay, we're going to see that later on in the text from 1600s or the sixth day. Okay, active, lively. I think they were saying something about happy in the text. attentive, open. Again, they were being open. Again, are we talking about the meek? Things like this. Um, let's see. Thus it was extracted as, okay, man alive, alive and kicking, alert, vigorous. The allusion is to a child in the womb after quickening. We're also going to be talking about the womb in this chapter. Can a man crawl back into his mother's womb and be born again? And so I really hope that we can come to terms as to what this born again may be referring to. But a kicking sense of lively, okay, the wanton or kicking flesh of young maids. That's remind me of the wanton eyes of the daughters of. Okay, well, anyways, so having life not dead. So burning, a coal, glowing, a full active power, uh, energy or power. Again, what are we talking about? The frequency, the energy that is already within. See, that consciousness is already within some of these beings, meaning the earlier you go, or the heathen, what they would call us, would be the possibly the Gentile, the heathen, all of the bad words, the serpent. These are the terms that were used to talk about these people. And if you look back at, like, even I think I shared with you guys a while ago that coat of arms of Jamaica, and I think they might have had like an alligator or something like that on the thing. But you'll just notice that they make reference to a lot of these types of things in the text when they're talking about these particular people. So what it says, real, live, genuine from 1887. Okay, so anyhow, we're going to just finish up what's going on here. So it says, before anything else existed, there was Christ. Okay, so again, this is before God, before anything, there was Christ. Now it says, with God, he has always been alive and and is himself God. So again, what are we talking about? Those who are, resonating in that frequency or have eyes to see. So right here it's going to say that there's a little A right here by existed. So it's saying literally in the beginning. So yes, this is talking about in the beginning, even though we don't see a reference of a Christ figure in the beginning. Like I said, I think it's symbolic for something else. And then B for where it says Christ. Okay. Let's see. Wait, 1A. Okay, existed. Okay, that means in the beginning. And then B, Christ, literally the word. Okay, literally the word, meaning Christ. Okay. The wisdom and power, again, you know what I'm saying? When you're in that frequency, you'll know discernment, all these other things, these tools that are already instilled in you. Even some form of skepticism or just having this way of looking at things and being able to understand, even though it doesn't match with what society tells us that it should. Okay. And power of God and the first cause of all things. Okay, so this is the first cause of all things. God's personal expression of himself to men. Okay, so again, I don't know. Even thinking of words is bringing me back to treaties and stuff like that. But so we don't take too much time. Let's go ahead and go back into the text. I'm going to go ahead and bring back up the biblical word so you guys can kind of follow along. Okay, so he created everything. Okay, so again, he has always been alive and is himself God. Now it says he created everything there is. Now, are we going back to the Christ? Okay, so are we going back to saying that Christ, because we're talking about Christ in this instance, and this is why it takes so long to explain these things. Okay, because we're still talking about this Christ figure. We're explaining this. Okay, so in the beginning there was Christ with God. He has always been alive and is himself God. He created everything there is. Nothing exists that he did not make. Again, if we're already talking about the fact that there was a primitive people here prior to colonization, and that some of these buildings that we have here in America, and some of these pyramids and some of these ruins, okay, belong to some people that were here already, you have to use your own discernment to see what we're actually really talking about here. And the fact that in Europe and all of these other places that they were supposedly before didn't have the plumbing systems and all of the things that they saw when they came over here that they were amazed by, which made everyone want to run to the Americas in the first place. The gold and all of this other stuff that we have, the bedellium. I'm pretty sure they have this stuff in other places, but again, why make so much reference to, oh, and there's gold there? You know what I'm saying? So it's just, let's just see. Because we are the ones that actually had the gold rush over here where they were digging for gold. And, it's just kind of like you just have to use your own discernment. Okay, so, okay, and then also, something about more likely the laws and the way that things were carried out, the structure, the infrastructure, because there was also a pyramid, a caste system in ancient Egypt as well, but everyone was in the house of God. There was not a people that was left out. See, so this is what it also goes back to the truncated pyramids as well. With the tops being removed. And then you have to, or knocking the block off, or just even you have to make reference to your third eye being um, calcified or whatnot. Okay, so let's see. Eternal life is in him. So eternal life is in him, and this life gives light to all mankind. And again, mankind is something that is kind of like a man. If the archetype, I'm telling you guys, if the archetype, where did it go? Okay. So if the archetype is going to be the originals or the aboriginals, because they are the originals, but the ab was placed there because they were removed or outcast or removed from their stance, okay, from what we've learned through etymology and other tools, okay? So mankind cannot be the original that we're talking about because, again, mankind is something that is kind of like a man, okay? So let's look at eternal. Okay, eternal, late 14th century, are we in the fourth day? Or directly from late Latin Saturnalis. And now this is making me think of Saturnalis, I think. Septernalius or something that is on the maps of some of the earliest maps here in America. Just saying. From Latin, okay, of an age. Again, are we talking about the Dark Ages? Lasting, enduring, permanent, again, fixed in a sense, okay? Everlasting, endless. The Alpha, the Omega, the beginning and the end. Contraction of great age, okay? Age, vital force, life, long life, eternity, okay? Let's see. Used since Middle English. Okay, so Middle English. I'll have to get a timeline of this Old English, Middle English, and modern day English to see when they were, okay. So both of things or conditions without beginning. So these are things or conditions without beginning. So there's no way to explain the beginning of these people or this entity. Or end, again, and things with a beginning only but no end. Okay, so again, this is saying something kind of pertaining to what we just read here. Conditions without beginning, so that will be the Christ consciousness or the Christ figure, or end, okay, and things with a beginning only but no end. So again, now we see these beings, okay, toppling over or progressing or winning the race, okay, to a certain extent, okay. Um, and that's just the bottom line. Let's see. So cognitive was Spanish eternal. Okay, the eternal for God is attested from 1580. Okay, 1580, and then these are related entries. Sempiternal, sempiternal. I don't know. Again, that's reminding me again of that septennial. I can't pronounce it because I don't see it in front of me, and I can't remember exactly how it's spelled. But everlasting, always, ever. Okay, so we'll just see hellfire. Genitive case of hell. Okay, so again, there we go with that. Okay, so let's go back to the word. Okay, so yeah, he eternal life is in him, and this life gave light to all mankind. Okay, so again, this original person is the one that gave light to all mankind. And again, you can look at the mother, or the Aboriginal woman who has given birth to several nations prior to and after their beginning. And she's still doing so. Okay. Yeah. Has life in the light shines through the darkness, and the darkness can never extinguish it. Okay, so it says it right here too as well. Okay, so we didn't have to go that far, where it says, and the darkness can never extinguish it. And I'm thinking that that just means put it out. Let's see how they're doing this. Extinguish, quench, put out, wipe out, obliterate, quench, again, to prick, stick, or pierce. Okay, so they're not going to be able to get rid of it. Okay, and I would just imagine it's going to grow and grow and grow. Okay, and then let's see. God sent John. Okay, God sent John. So Christ did not send John. God sent John the Baptist as a witness to the fact that Jesus Christ, okay, that Jesus Christ is the true light. So now when you put Jesus and Christ together, this is the true light. But we just already said, wait a minute, hold on. God sent John the Baptist as a witness. So just a witness, somebody that supposedly witnessed something, to the fact that Jesus Christ is the true light. Now, in the beginning, it made no mention. It says that there was Christ. It didn't say Jesus Christ. So again, Christ, in a sense, overtakes that in my eyes still. Okay? And that this is a mere man that could be leaving something out to the imagination because they want to make it look some other type of way. Okay? So again, and then this light, okay, because again, God did speak of this light in Genesis 1, the greater light and the lesser light to rule through the earth or through the night, the darkness. Okay, so again, God sent these things. So what is he doing that we're not talking about Christ in the beginning and what Christ's efforts were? Because again, that would be the thing that they're sitting on top of, that they would like to suppress the information on. Okay. John himself was not the light. Okay, so John himself was not the light. He was only a witness to identify it. So he was only a witness, and he was supposed to come and identify it, I guess, when it comes. Later on, the one who is the true light arrived to shine on everyone coming into the world. And again, whatever, since we're talking about, when we're talking about the world, this is going to take us forever, but I really want to stick on this because I think it's going to help us see a lot of, a lot of things here. Okay. the world, human existence. Again, who is the human? If there is a earthly, which is the oldest people in a place, which would be melanated people, okay, or Aboriginal or original origines, okay. Now human existence. So again, who are the humans? Who is man? Who is mankind? Who are the earthlings? Who are the aboriginals? Who is the human? Okay, do you see what I'm saying? And then again, if everything was dark and then there's a hue, I see hue there, like a coloring or whatever. So if human is there, could it go earth, meaning the earthlings or the beings of earth, and then the human of different hues, and then man, which would be a so-called Caucasian looking person, and then mankind. Is there something after that? Meaning, um, the man may be that group of men that would come from their mother and father and cleave on to the wife, meaning native people. So again, we can go Aboriginal, and then even when we're talking about the human, could be the offspring of the earth, which would be an array of different colors, like we already are. You see, okay? Um, so that human could be the offspring, okay? And then we have to go and say that that could be the indigenous peoples, and then native would be someone that is just born in a place, and that would or immigrants or aliens, okay? So let's see, the affair of life, again, life or alive, and then now we're talking about life, or I don't know if we're talking about even living creatures. Also, a long period of time. Also, the human race, mankind, humanity. So again, we're really going there with these terms where whatever this is, the earth could not be. See, because the earth is the archetype that everything else was formed after. Okay, the word peculiar to Germanic language cognates this, and that, or whatever German, with a literal sense of age of man. Okay, man, old age, to grow and nourish. Again, we have to look at this in the sense where these things are growing and being nourished by the earth, and then that would make the earth its food, in a sense, how we even talk about this in Genesis. Um, Again, because without the earth, they could not survive. Okay, and I think they know that. So they have to keep you here forever, but they're going to torture you the whole time that you're here. Originally, life on earth. Okay, so here we go. It just said exactly what I just said. Originally, life on earth. Okay, so again, that would be the offspring or anything that would come after a indigenous person, which is connected to the earth, is the fruit that came together after there was a mixture of what was already here prior to colonization, and then what they brought in during that whole process. Okay, this world. Okay, so that's the world. And then as opposed to the afterlife. Okay, so again, because this is talking about life on earth or people that are not original or nature, they didn't there were but they were nurtured by the earth. Okay, um they would not go into the afterlife, because remember, these people were alive already. They didn't die in that sense until these people came in to colonize or prepare the earth for God to be able to reside. Okay, so again, as opposed to the afterlife. Okay, so these will be living creatures, possibly, if we're talking about the things that are growing and nourishing. Since extended to known world, then a physical world in broadest sense, the universe. Okay. Let's see, the gospel, physical world, middle enclosure. Okay, the middle enclosure. Again, is this the middle enclosure that we're talking about in that arch that we see George Washington in the Illuminati image, even in the dome earth? Do you see what I'm saying? Within that realm, instead of being underneath it. Okay, so let's see, the world of people, the seed of man, literally the seed of man. Again, this is their world that we're trying to survive in when we need to snatch ourselves physically and mentally away from anything that they're offering, because even if it did start off ours, they have made it so foreign that it's nothing to do. The way that this setup is, this whole mechanism is set up, is not for us. We will only perish and feel like we're perishing in this system that they've set up for us if we keep trying to run in this rat race and fit in with the Joneses. Okay, so literally abode. Again, here are we talking about the abode of God. Again, are we talking about that pyramid as well when it comes to the caste system? I see that that's exactly what we're talking about, and this is helping me internalize and overstand eventually what is going on here. I'm already understanding it because I feel it when I'm speaking, when I'm reading, and how this helps assist even before we get to the definitions, me already speaking this, and then the definitions just confirm that. Okay, so these are my witnesses that I'm lining up here as to what we're talking about. So words of the world in some other Indo-European language derive from the root for the bottom foundation. Again, do we have to pull up the caste system again? Do we have to pull up the Illuminati image again? Because you're going to see that the bottom or the foundation, okay, um again, that is where the servants and the servants, meaning their seed that are at the bottom, preside or reside, such as Irish, old church Slavic. Again, those are the slave races, the everyday so-called white people today, the everyday so-called foreign entities that are just everyday people, your neighbors, basically. Okay. uh let's see, English deep, under, soul, under soul or sun. So yeah, under the sun. And again, the sun, could that be speaking of people in these other forms, like the in the caste system when it comes to the king and the military presence? Okay, so let's see, worldly. And that's why I say these worldly possessions, this worldly realm, you have to be detached to it from a certain to a certain extent to even be able to see. Really, you have to really already detach. Age, world, number. Earlier it meant dead. Okay, okay. So again, some of us did die, and I'm just trying to ask you guys who died on the cross. So let's see. Um, so God sent John the Baptist as a witness in the fact that Jesus Christ is true light. John himself was not the light. He was only the witness to identify it. Later on, the one who is the true light arrived to shine on everyone coming into the world. Again, are we talking about the Illuminati and Adam Weishaupt in 1770, the Bavarian whatnot in 1775, I think, which is also, I think, the same date that might be, it's either 75, 76, or 77. That's underneath the pyramid that's on the dollar sign with the eye on it. Okay, so let's see. But although he made the world, okay, so now we're talking again about although he made the world. I'm guessing that's talking about that Christ. Okay, the world did not recognize him when he came. So, um, again, we're far away from who we're talking about, but we could be talking about Christ or God, but we have to keep reading to see. Um, even, okay, even in his own land, okay, so even in his own land, what are we talking about and who are we talking about? So then we are probably talking about the Christ. See, and this is why it's important to keep going instead of trying to go all over the Bible and try to find other things to link up with it. Stay where you at and you'll be able to see. Okay. So even in his own land and among his own people, the Jews, he was not accepted. Now, we still have to keep our eyes open, because what are we talking about here? Because I know we want to think that Aboriginals are the only ones, but again, if someone is indigenous, that means they are tied to that blood. So they are also tied to the land in a sense, partially. Okay. So again, if this figure here that we're talking about would probably be, that was too fast, of the land, would be indigenous, also having some kind of bloodline from a different place, a foreign entity. Okay. But to all who received him, he gave the right to become children of God. So he gave them the right. And that always reminds me of like the right, Scottish rite. And there was another rite, I think, that we're looking at. Like, are they passing through some kind of secret society or something? Um, and again, he gave them the right to become children of God. All they needed to do was to trust him. I don't know if it's talking about the Christ figure, John, or God. Okay. To save them. Okay, now let's see what it says. C. What does C say about them? To believe on his name. Okay, so to believe on his name. So is this, these people thought of it as Christ first, and they threw Jesus on it and then brought it back out to the world? And do you see what I'm saying? And now they want somebody to believe on that name. Forget about what you knew. Forget about the people that were already here. We're going to just act like the creation story is it, and that we're talking about everyone when we're really only talking about the worldly beings. Okay, those are that are put on high. Okay, all those who believe, and then it says, all they need to do was trust him. Okay, so again, we're talking about going out on faith. Okay, faith. Okay, so all those who believe this are reborn, not a physical rebirth. Okay, not a physical one. Okay, and it says D, literally, not of blood. So you don't have to be reborn with the blood, meaning mix with these people or amalgamate your bloodline. No. Okay, this means something else. Okay, so again, remember when it says not, we are not battling against flesh and blood, but the principalities of the rulers of the dark places, or something, how that goes. It's saying that this is not indigenous or original. Okay, so again, you don't have, it's not physical rebirthing, meaning coming through the blood of that. It is actually some other, probably kind of ritual, possibly, I'm not sure, resulting from human passion or plan. So not the rebirth, the physical rebirth resulting from human passion or plan, but from the will of God. So not from those things, but from the will of God. To determine by act of choice, dispose of by will or testament. Okay, will, to wish, desire, be willing, to be used to, be about to will, desire, to choose, to will, chooses, or even like the chosen ones. Okay, because there were some that were already, and then I guess there were some that were through the blood probably, and then there were some that were chosen. Okay, yeah, so to be chosen, eligible, excellent. Excuse me. Let's see if we see anything else. To will, wish, literally according to one's wish, one being riches, especially ones began to appear in 1600, as in the shield, for she will. And that also reminds me of the shield, like the bottomless pit or whatnot. Okay. Yeah. Joy, delight, desire, wish, mind. Okay. So yeah. And Christ, okay, so now it's saying, and Christ became a human being. Okay, so at this time, Christ became a human being. And lived here on earth. Okay, we already know what the earth is. Among us, among them, and was full of joy. No, and full of living forgiveness. So I'm sorry, you guys. Let me get back on point. And lived here on earth among us and was full of loving forgiveness. So he was full of loving forgiveness and truth. It says literally grace. So forgiveness meaning grace. Okay? So grace and truth. And some of us have seen his glory. Us, speaking of the same thing they're speaking of in Matthew 17:2, which I'm not going to go there because I think it will, you know, take us back. So John pointed him out to the people, telling the crowds, this is the one I was talking about when I said someone is coming who is greater by far than I am. Okay. So John was saying somebody is coming who is greater by far than I am. Now, this always confused me because it's like, then I am, saying that then me, or then I am, that I am that I am. You see what I'm saying? Because were these people saying I am, and were they I am, and now they're reintroducing it as Jesus Christ instead of just Christ, which Christ would be I am, possibly. Okay, and now they want you to they want to reinvent this and add Jesus to Christ. Okay, just like African American or African to American. Okay, and again, greater by far than I am. For and now he's showing this like to these people. Okay, so it could, I don't know, maybe it could be going either way. For he existed long before I did. Okay, he will. Okay, let's see who we are. It's not going to tell. Okay, so we have all benefited from the riches. So we were just talking about riches in that definition. Blessings he brought to us, blessings upon blessing heaped upon us. For Moses gave us only the law. So Moses gave us only the law. So again, Moses, before this Christ is supposed to be coming, already had given the law. Now I'm wondering too. Okay, because I'm now that's making me think about Abraham Lincoln and some kind of something surrounding his time or his era or his works, laying down the law, and then later on, or who came first. This is what I want to see, where Abraham Lincoln exists when it comes to the whole thing about John Brown, because there was a mild connection there. Okay, Moses gave us only the law with its rigid demands, with its rigid demands and merciless justice. Now, we'll have to go see what laws were laid around the time that we're thinking here. While Jesus Christ brought us loving forgiveness as well. So again, okay, so he said this, this must have been a demand, rigid. So I guess it was a very something kind of demand, and a merciless justice. For who? Who was justice coming from? This justice would be merciless to who? Okay, while Jesus Christ brought us loving forgiveness as well. So then maybe that wasn't working. So now Jesus Christ came and brought some kind of loving forgiveness. And we had to just throw that in there, because why? What, forgiven for what? And see, this is where this whole Christ crucified thing gets to me. Because it's kind of like giving people the right to go around and do these things over and over again, and they'll just be forgiven by God in the end. And it just seems like we better just pay real attention to that when we're speaking of that. Because it's not only pertaining to you, maybe it's pertaining to and actually giving power to those who are over you. Okay? no one has ever actually seen God, okay? But do they see you now? Or are you just an imaginary people that don't belong in this world, that shouldn't have any rights, that should always be slaves, that doesn't really have a name? We can keep changing it. I'm just saying. But of course, his only son, okay, but of course, his only son has for he, okay, yeah, let's slow down. Okay, no one ever seen God, but of course, his only son has. Okay, for he is the companion of the Father and has told us all about him. So, yeah, his only son has. For he is the companion of the Father and has told us all about him. So we'll stop there. I hope you guys are enjoying this. This might be one that you feel like you can do without. But again, I'm just going to keep on going, and I don't know when and where we're going to be able to bring in the extra stuff. But I think when it's fitting, we'll just bring the other things in that we have here to share. So I want to thank you guys for watching, and I'll see you guys soon. Take care.